Welcome to season 5 of A Little Birdie Told Me with your host, Rebecca Horan. On episode 2, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by author and podcaster Rosemary MacCabe, who joins me from the United States of America. Sponsored by Aptamil Follow-On Milk. We believe that every feed is a gift. That's why we've dedicated over 50 years to breast milk research and created Aptamil Follow-On Milk. Aptamil Follow-On Milk, your life, our science. Breastfeeding is best. Follow-on milk should be used as part of a mixed diet from 6 months. Talk to a health professional. This is the only podcast of this season that I'm doing remotely because couldn't fly her in, but also I wouldn't expect her to, and it was worth it. It is so worth it to have her remotely. Wanted her last season. We've had her on A Little Birdie Told Me. I think it was season 2, and the numbers were phenomenal because most women in this country want to hear what she has to say. This is a very smart woman with lots to give us. So please welcome to A Little Birdie Told Me season 5, Rosemary MacCabe, who is of course an author, podcaster, writer, and just pretty much all round good gal. So I'm really thrilled to have her here, and I know that I've limited time, so I'm going to be picking her brain, and it probably will be all a bit messy, but it doesn't matter. Welcome, Rosemary.
Thanks for having me.
I'm delighted to have you. Where are you? Where in America are you?
I am in Fort Wayne, Indiana, a city that I feel like most people won't really have heard of.
It doesn't
People
matter.
get it confused with Fort Worth in Texas.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. No.
Yeah, no, Fort Wayne.
Any movies with Fort Wayne in it? Maybe.
I don't know. Ashley Ford, the author, is from Fort Wayne.
Okay.
And Stephen King is from Indiana more generally.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so some cultural...
So those are our claims to fame, yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so you left us. How many years ago did you desert us?
Well, I moved here on March 13th of 2020. So my timing,
crazy.
As always, has been impeccable.
COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, legged it. You're now there 4 years. You have a husband.
I have a husband.
You've collected a husband, 2 stepsons. You had a child,
Yeah.
Atlas, gorgeous boy.
Yeah, I have another one on the way.
And you're
a
up the
house and
duffer.
a dog and a cat.
There you go. So you did some serious work in 4 years, am I right?
Oh my God, I'm exhausted, yeah.
Did you possibly, and it sounds like a really inane question, but did you possibly think when you went over to America to either start afresh, start anew, do something different, be with your sister, spend some time there, get out of Dublin, did you actually think that within these 4 years this would have happened?
So no, but also yes, because when I moved over, I had come over on an O1, which is a kind of a freelancer's visa, right? So I had a visa for I think 3 years, but my plan was to come for 2 years and to see how I got on. But I've always been I could say I've always been a romantic, but it's more that I've always been an avid dater. So pretty much from the minute I arrived, I was like, I'm going to get on Tinder and see who I meet, go out, like meet people. I really love, I love fancying people. I love feeling like I'm fancied and I love being in love. So when I came over, I was very much like, okay, that's always been part of my life. So why wouldn't it be part of my life here? So
okay.
I suppose I was open to the idea of meeting somebody, but at the same time, Fort Wayne is very small. Mm-hmm. Geographically, it's about the same size as Dublin, but population-wise, I think it's about 750,000. So it's a small city, especially by American standards. Mm-hmm. So, and I kind of, it's very conservative. Indiana is a red state. There were a lot of things in my mind that I was like, I'm never going to meet somebody that I mesh with here. So I thought I might go out on a couple of dates. I might meet people and, have a bit of fun, but I was like, I'm not really going to meet
the guy.
The one.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I couldn't have imagined that I would end up, especially because of how fast it moves, how fast it moved for me, because I was in a relationship for 5 years before I left Dublin. And we broke up the year before I moved over here. And I really thought...
And it hadn't moved as quickly as this.
Exactly. And by the end of 5 years, I was like, do you think, maybe next year we might get engaged? And then imagining and then in a couple of years after that, we might get married.
We've all had those relationships where they're just duds from the beginning, really.
Yeah. Whereas here I was with Brandon for, I think... We had met in the May of 2019. So the year before I moved over, I'd been over to visit Beatrice a couple of times and I joined Tinder and I'd met a few people and I met him and we'd gone on a couple of dates and we were kind of seeing each other kind of casually, but also exclusively just in the sense that I was like, I'm not sleeping with anyone else. He wasn't sleeping with anyone else. We were, exclusive in that way.
Yeah.
So we met in May. I moved over the following March and then on New Year's Eve of that year, he proposed. So we didn't even know each other 2 years. You know
But
what I mean?
what
So
were
it
the
was very
gut
quick.
feelings that made Brandon different? Like, what are the things that you can, because, you know, there's a lot of women who just adore how the lens you see life through, but also I love the dichotomy of the fact that you're very outspoken, you're obviously a strong feminist, but yet you have these traditional this traditional side in you, and you obviously fell madly in love with him. What was the gut thing with Brandon? Was there an immediate like chemistry? Was it a slow burner? Was it just that he was a great guy?
I think there was an immediate chemistry in the sense that I just really, really fancied him.
Okay,
Like I
so
remember talking to a
sex.
friend of mine. I remember talking to a friend of mine a few years before that. We were talking about like, what would your ideal man be? And I was like, oh, well, you know, I don't want somebody who's real macho. Like, I don't want somebody who hangs out with the lads. I'd like somebody who, and I basically came up with this idea of like a tall guy who has dark hair, maybe
Yeah.
long hair, a beard, and is a tattoo artist, right? That was in my head. So
Ooh.
I was like, that's a creative job. Seems kind of cool.
Yeah.
Now he's not a tattoo artist. He's a project manager. So like the less said, but he does have long hair. He does have tattoos. He has a beard. So he kind of in a way fit this kind of stupid fantasy that I had where I was like, this is never the guy that I'm going to meet. But like, because I'd
This is what
also
I'd
gone
like.
out with a lot of I'd gone out with like an accountant. I'd gone out with a radio producer. I'd gone out with a photographer, but like all I'd say quite, I don't know, I don't mean normal in a derogatory sense, but I mean like guys you would have gone to school with. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And you would know, and they'd know your friends.
Yes.
Whereas he was just really different to anybody I'd ever met. I think he's probably one of the nicest people I've ever met. In that,
Rosemary.
well, he's a lot nicer than I am, and he's not like, he really has to be pushed to say bitchy things.
What do you mean a lot nicer? Because nice is such a bizarre word. Like you just mean,
Yeah, I mean,
there's a kind, like you're
yeah,
very kind. You're just much
well,
more cynical about things, probably.
I'm very kind, but I'm also very cynical, and I can be very judgmental, and I
That's okay.
really decide what I think about somebody pretty soon.
And he doesn't.
Whereas I think he's much more open to getting to know people than I am in that sense. He is much more understanding, I think, of people's differences. So I wouldn't have a lot of patience for, say, people who are ultra conservative. Whereas he, you know, I think is just a lot more
Easy come,
empathetic or
easy
understanding.
go, or yeah.
Yeah.
Can
Now, look, in my defense as well, he's also grown up somewhere where a lot of people are ultra conservative. So maybe he's had to be more understanding because otherwise he'd have no mates.
And he's liberal, even though he's ultra, like he grew up here. Yeah.
Yeah. So
wow.
I mean, he would consider himself a Democrat, but like, you know, by that same token, he's not out protesting.
Yes.
He's not, you know, super lefty. And look, neither am I, because to be perfectly honest, I don't even beat my horn in America because I'm scared of guns. So like, whenever there are protests downtown for things that I would very much believe in, I really have a moment where I'm like, oh, am I going to go? Am I not going to go? And then I just have this terror that I'm like, what if it's just the one day that somebody drives by with the AR-15 that they're allowed to have in their car and decides to shoot me, to shoot us, you know what I mean? And it's just, so I'm not protesting either. But
can I probe, but not too much because it's none of my business. And I know it's obviously your family, but he was married before or in a relationship before?
He was married before. So when I met him, he was divorced about 2 or 3 years, I think.
Okay.
So it was quite fresh. And I think by Irish standards, if I'd met him in Ireland, I would have been like, oh, it's too soon. You're not over it at all. Whereas he talks about it and he's like, no, the first year I really wasn't over it. Then I started going to therapy. Then I kind of started dating, and he like talks about how he started dating and then he realized he actually wasn't ready. So he pulled back. And then I think he had just started dating again for the second time since his relationship had broken down when we met. And he was kind of going, no, it feels like it's been a good amount of time. I'm settled now. He had a house. He'd figured out, his custody arrangement with the kids. Everything had kind of settled into a routine. And then he was like, no, I'm ready to see if I can meet somebody else.
But timing is a construct, because in some marriages, and this is an opinion, I'm married, but this, as you're leaving a marriage or there's a separation period or things are not good or they're ending or the love has ended, it's a construct because that can go on before anything legal or official actually happens. So in my small opinion, it can actually be dead before it's even announced.
100%. Yeah. And I also think, the idea of like, are you ready to move on? Are you over someone? I also don't really think you need to be fully over someone. Like,
it's okay.
You could be processing the end of one relationship and then meet somebody else. And I'm not somebody who'd be like, oh, it's just the wrong time.
Totally.
And
they're never going to leave your soul.
If I've met you, it's the right time.
But he's had 2 children. That person's never going to leave. And likewise, it's I don't believe everything has to be this finality. And do you have a relationship with his ex-partner?
Yeah. We would be pretty friendly. And she's a photographer, actually. And she took the promo photos for my book, which was kind of funny because my book, like my book is about my dating history and then ends with kind of how I met
Can you give us the
Brandon
name
and
of
we
the
got
book
married.
again? Because the book name
It's
is
called
brilliant.
This Is Not About You. Well, it's about me more than it's about them.
Okay.
So it's kind of like I looked at it as telling the story of my life through my dating history. But I really wanted to make it clear that our dating history and what we take from that and the lessons that we learn and the traumas that we might carry are really not about the individual. Now, there are exceptions. So, if somebody is like a massive dickhead or is abusive or cheats, all of those things are their problems.
Yeah.
But for a lot of relationships, I think what we take from them says a lot more about us than it does about the person we're in a relationship with.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, because we carry a lot of we put a lot of blame and a lot of there's a lot of heat on the other person when actually a lot of it's our own stuff. Yeah, that's interesting. I love that. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also obviously like the story we tell after a relationship is only from our perspective, right?
Yes.
So it's obviously colored by our experiences, by our previous relationships, by whatever hurts we might have carried with us
or
into that relationship and then on to relationships in the future. So I'm sure that if the men that I wrote about in my book decided to sit down and write our stories, they would be very different.
Which is kind of cool too. Anyway, I love that his ex-partner took your promo imagery and that there's this beautiful kind of blended thing going on, because I know that his two gorgeous sons are often in some of your social content, and it just seems like honestly the most progressive, chilled, balanced vibe. And isn't that amazing? Is that not what it's all about, instead of everyone being so worried about everyone else's business? So congratulations on doing such a nice job of that.
Well, I can't take any credit for it. Like, that was their, when I arrived, they already had a really good, mature relationship. And I think that was probably part of why I felt so comfortable being with him and getting with him in what seemed like quite a quick move on from their previous relationship, because they had such a positive vibe and they just were handling everything so well that it felt like, okay, this is a safe environment to get into. It didn't feel like I was getting into anything fraught or, that was going to massively ruin anybody's life.
I don't know the man. I've obviously never been in your company, but it appears that he is absolutely mad about you and admires you greatly. Can I ask a question that seems really like bland? What does it feel like through everything that you've gone through and your story that you tell and the wonderful, I thought you're very empowering for women. What does it feel like to be loved like you're loved by Brandon?
I mean, I'm glad that it seems like that. I don't know that I would say like, that it feels I don't wake up every day going, oh, another day of being adored.
Do you not?
No, I definitely don't. I mean, I definitely believe that he loves me, but he's also he's a very practical kind of, the emotions are not to the forefront with him. You know what I mean? He's a very practical person. He's, we've definitely had issues in our relationship where I've gone, I need you to like look happy to see me when you come in the door at the end of the day. Because sometimes he'd come in the door and he'd go, hi, and just like slink off to the chair, like go and make himself a cup of coffee. And I'm like, hi, how was your day? And it's also, that's a part of working from home, because I'm at home all day on my own and I'm kind of like a little dog at the window, then waiting for somebody to come home and be like, hi, I've been here all day.
Like the 1950s Stepford white lipstick on, Brandon's
no, oh my God, total. I'm like sitting on the couch in my onesie going, oh my God, I've been waiting for you to come home all day. But I mean, it feels, I think more than any other relationship I've been in, and look, a part of this is because we're married, right? So I feel like it's a big hassle to not be married once you're married. Although in Indiana, I think it takes something like 45 days to dissolve a marriage, so it's pretty quick.
What?
I feel very secure. I don't ever really feel worried in the way that I have, I think, in all of my previous relationships, that worried that, oh, they're going to meet somebody else, worried that, oh, they're going to finally get sick of my bullshit. Oh,
wow.
They're going to read this thing about me and suddenly go off me. I don't have any of those worries with him. So that's very nice. But I definitely don't, it's not kind of little mice running around dancing and singing at my feet while he comes home from work and goes, darling, I've missed you so much. Like, that's not.
But you have to work at, do you feel like you're both pretty good at just chilling in each other's company, making time for each other? Like, I'm 11 years married now, and you're how long?
3. So
do you find it hard, or do you not find it hard?
Oh, I think it's really hard. And especially now, so we have 3 kids, we have a 4th on the way. Our schedules, I mean, obviously because I work from home, but our schedules are different. And sometimes Like at the moment during the summer, I only have childcare for 2 days during the week. So I work a lot in the evenings when he gets home. I don't really remember the last time. I mean, we went for dinner with friends of ours a couple of weeks ago and brought the baby, but I don't really remember the last time we actually just went out, the two of us, without any kids. So it definitely is hard to make time. And to make time, I mean, like we spend time together in the evenings where he's looking at his phone and I'm looking at my phone and we're watching TV. So no, I mean, we definitely don't make enough time to actually spend active quality time together.
But
and that's
so has
something
your
that
opinion
we've talked
changed on marriage? Like I speak to some of my friends now who are in their 40s who got married or chose not to, and they have relationships, long-standing relationships, or they don't, or they're dating or sleeping with people. And then I look at my parents' marriage and I look at other generations. I don't know whether yours was a reason for, you know, your standing in America, financials, legality, your babas, or whether you were like, no, I really believe in the institution of marriage. Has your opinion changed? Like, do you think it's really important for people to be married?
I hadn't thought much about the institution of marriage before I got married. I just kind of assumed that if I fell in love and we were so in love that we would want to get married, you know, with whoever I ended up with. So I didn't think about it in that much in that sense. We got married when we got married. So we got married in March of 2021. He had just proposed on the New Year's Eve 3 months previously. And the reason we got married so quickly is because I was pregnant. I got pregnant later in January. And in order to be covered on his health insurance, which is obviously the big problem in America, we had to be married. So we would have waited a little bit longer, but that's not why that's not why he proposed, because I wasn't pregnant at that point. I think since getting married, my opinions have changed. In the one sense, like I said, there is a great security to being married. Just not even a security. I mean, it's kind of boredom as well, right? You're like, God, there's no point in having this big fight that I want to have, because at the end we'll still be married. And like I can't storm out and I can't leave, and like especially when you've kids, you know what I mean? You can't even. There are definitely days where I'm like, I would love to just go and stay in a hotel and fuck him, but like then you're like, what's going to happen to baby? So you can't do that.
No.
So in that sense, like yes, there's a bit of a we're married now. I suppose there's no point in actually getting really annoyed about this, but there's also a security in okay, we're married, and that feels very safe.
Okay.
At the same time, I think since getting married, I've realized what I realized in previous relationships, but also it's kind of compounded when you're married, is that the mental and physical load of labor, so of emotional labor, of physical labor, of household labor, is so disproportionately falling to women in the majority of heterosexual relationships. And despite the fact that I would consider myself quite a kind of staunch feminist, and I read a lot about these things and I talk a lot about these things, and I give lectures to the men in my life about emotional labor and the value of the work that women put in and the value of the work that men put in and how we should value each equally, I still end up doing the majority of the laundry, and I still end up buying all of the clothes for the kids, and you know, a lot of these kind of gendered things. And so I think that in a lot of senses, marriage is not good for women. So yes, you get security, and you might also get financial security if your partner earns more than you, but that's getting less and less important now.
So I would actively discourage my two daughters from getting married, and that's why I was kind of leading into that question. And not because I don't want them to have a functioning, loving, long relationship. It's not that I want them to be hugely promiscuous. It's not. In fact, I don't care what they do. And it's not that I don't want them to find someone and have children, right? That is none of that. But actually, it's exactly what you've just said there, which was really interesting. And that's why I asked you, because I do know that you're preaching to the converted about a lot of stuff that you talk about. But it's more that I personally feel that when you get married, women again, that the inequalities become even more... I think it's the forefront. And I don't think it's a bitterness or resentfulness or like, I'm doing so much. I don't think it is that. I think men are fantastic and getting better all the time. And look at what a great dad Brandon is. And my husband's an absolutely fantastic father. I think it's just that we do take on a lot more of the, and I don't know whether you would agree, we haven't had a date night in ages. I need to push for that. Why aren't we talking more? You didn't hug me today. Have we had sex enough? When did we last have sex? So I'm going to check in on that. But then I'm also going to do the kids' activities, make sure that they're being fed properly, get the stuff, worry about the screen time, worry about is his mental health struggling? Has he been bullied? What happened with that? Or the WhatsApp moms group? Have I checked in on my family? Does everyone hate me? Do I look semi-okay? Oh, I don't really. Have I waxed? So there's just like, this bizarre, and it's not just women just take on too much and we're just highly strung and we're a pain in the asshole when we get married. I honestly don't agree with that narrative at all. I think it just immediate. There's a security in being married for men, and they get, as we know scientifically, a better time of it than we do. And then the minute we get married, it's like, whoo. Whereas I think if you're not married, there's always a feeling that they could lose you, and so you don't have to do all of this shite.
Yeah, I read a really interesting book by Liz Lenz, who's an American author. She's a newsletter on Substack called Men Yell at Me, and she wrote a book called This American Ex-Wife: How I Left My Marriage and Discovered My Life or something.
Wow.
But it was really interesting because she basically wrote, and I mean, the book is interesting because in a way I was waiting for the moment of kind of here's why the marriage ended, and that kind of doesn't come. You don't really get the like, this marriage is so terrible and here's why, but you do get a lot of kind of small, almost what feels like microaggressions, not just from her husband but from her marriage, in a way that didn't really seem like it was his. He wasn't deciding, oh, I'm going to come home now and leave everything to her, or I'm going to
they don't. I don't think they do.
No, but. And it was really interesting and kind of, I mean, I would say transformative, but nothing in my life has changed. But my head, I definitely have kind of gone, that is really interesting how she talks about how divorce really freed her. And there's another author and podcaster that I follow, Virginia Saul Smith. She wrote a book called Fat Talk, which is really interesting actually about how to raise kids in a kind of fat phobic and diet culture centered society. And she recently got a divorce, and I read an interview with her where she said something like, getting divorced is terrible, being divorced is amazing. And I thought it was very interesting. She was basically talking about how she suddenly kind of had her life back, that she was like, I suddenly have time to do all of these things that in my relationship I was facilitating the time for my husband to have. That I wasn't having for myself. And it was really
Is there just
fascinating.
more of a freedom for men? They have the children that they want and love. And I do think that, again, we've moved on. I think your dad, it seems, is a really good nurturer and a really good father, and there's a relationship there. But there was a generational shift, and men are doing their bit there. You're talking about the fact that your husband works, they're bringing in an income. So there is lots they do, but it's that grey fog. It's the subconscious stuff I'm talking about, the constantly working towards the events, the family things, the little bits and pieces that make things special.
Yeah,
it's the magic dust. My husband says it sometimes.
There's so much. We actually bought this box of cards, right? It's called the Fair Play deck, where you divide up the cards based on. They have essentially all of the household chores on them. So they have like laundry, they have birthday cards, they have birthday gifts, they have like birthday gifts family, birthday gifts friends, but they also have like planning for a baby, so they have certain things that are to do with like nurturing the relationship, planning this, planning that, and you go through them and you divide them up. And actually, to be honest, I was really annoyed because when we divided them up, there wasn't as much of a disparity as I thought there was going to be, because stuff like, well, no, but it also annoyed me afterwards because I was like, we should have actually figured out a value to each card in terms of time, because
that's true.
Stuff like, he looks after the cars, right? In the sense that if something happens to the car, he looks after the car. He does the bins.
Thank God.
He looks after, I know. He looks after the garage. But none of those things are everyday, 30 minutes a day tasks. Whereas I do the everyday, thinking about the kids, thinking about him. Like the other day I said to him, after work today, you should take the kids to the cinema. And I was like, because you haven't spent any time with the older two on their own in ages. And I know they're jealous of the toddler, and I know they're going to be jealous of the baby. Not jealous in the bad way, but totally normal kid stuff. And I was like, you should take them for dinner, take them to the cinema. And I was like, when was the last time he said to me, I've spent time thinking of a way that you could have some fun time with your kids? Like, I do that for him. But there is this expectation on women that we will be the ones to keep in contact with family, that we will be the ones to reach out to the mothers and the mothers-in-law. Yes. And I think also we are raised as girls to be house proud in a way that men are not raised.
The matriarchs.
We are raised to value, not just the tidiness of our house, but like having our clothes washed and like quote unquote matching. I mean, I don't really match things, but you know what I mean? Like looking well, having our house looking well. Also, all this stuff is marketed to us day in and day out, right? In a way that men don't get as many ads, I don't think, for quilts from Anthropology. Well, granted, I do a lot of searching for quilts from Anthropology.
You're being targeted, Rosemary. That's because you have a problem.
100%. But like, it's just not the same for men. And when I say to him, like, I really feel like I'm doing too much laundry or something, he'll go, oh, well, the thing is though, he's like, you just do it before I would do it, before I get to it.
Yes.
And if it was up to me, I'd do it once a week on a Sunday.
Ugh.
And I'm like, but it needs to be done every day.
But Rosemary,
So
you hit the nail on the head where you said
different.
you think about him. It's actually just the grey fog and the mind juice where you're literally like, is he okay? Do you think that job is his boss being a bit of a prick? Is he getting on okay with the kids? Is there more time? Does he fancy me? Is he still getting a boner or is it a semi? Is there still...
You know what? I also don't think any man I have ever been with, including Brent, has ever thought to himself, does she still fancy me? Because I think they're all just like, well, of course she fancies me. Anyway, moving on.
I don't think that they do. I think men can be deeply insecure. I just don't think it occurs to them. I don't think they do think, oh, she wants to ride me, cowboy style. I think it's more they don't think about it. Yeah, and then it comes to having the sex, they're like, she's not that into that move. Whoa!
I don't even
Why
think
is she not into that?
Honest,
well, I don't know. But like, I don't know about you, but you analyze even post shag. You're like, how did you find that? They're like, fine. And you're like, really? The kisses weren't as long. Do you think something's like? It's just all of it. The foreplay. Why is there not more of this? Everything is foreplay, though. I think for a woman in a relationship, like you're talking about, even just the household duties.
If you did the fucking laundry, that would be the most effective foreplay of my life.
You had to ride him for life. Anyway, I do think, I hope in 20 years' time, if I'm doing some older woman podcast, that there's been some kind of shift in what we're doing, because I feel that my head is fried daily, and it is not my husband's fault. It is not his fault, but there is some issue with society that my head is fried daily.
Like it's not their fault actively, right? But it's also not their fault. Because I don't think, like, we have these conversations quite frequently where I go, I'm really feeling burnt out. I'm doing too much and you're doing, like, I'm doing too much disproportionately to what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And I think he then just chooses to go, that was a conversation we had last week and now it's over. Instead of thinking to himself, okay, what can I do going forward to make this better? So
you're right. Rosemary's on one.
It's not that it happens, but they're also not...
Yeah, I know. They're not actively engaged. It's different brains. And having said that, you are now raising two boys who are a little bit older, Atlas, and you're going to be having another boy. Mm-hmm. Do you, and I'm not saying you wake up every morning, you go, stretch, I'm going to raise my children to be so equal in all their dealings. But do you actively try and raise, particularly Atlas, who you're spending a lot of time with, to think about women's needs a bit more and not be a selfish little feckers? Or are you too busy folding your matching anthropology sheets?
To be honest, I'm currently working on trying to get him to talk. So we aren't talking that much about like intersectional feminism. But it's just funny. With the older boys, I'm really trying to kind of impress upon them the idea of being independent when it comes to cleaning and tidying and doing their laundry and keeping their rooms clean and stuff. They have absolutely zero interest. And I don't know how to kind of enforce upon them, because my worst nightmare is that we'll end up with kids, with teenagers, with men in their 20s who move in with girls and then move in and expect the girls to be their moms, right?
And they'll blame you. They'll be like, she was a shit.
Exactly. But at the same time, I really rail against that, because I'm like, why, again, like in a lot of these conversations, we talk about like, are you really trying to raise feminists, right? I don't think anybody has ever asked a man that.
No.
Like, why is it up to me? Why is it up to me to fix this problem that is actually disproportionately affecting my life? And
no, but Rosemary, we've dated the mummy's boys, though. We've dated the Catholic Irish mummy's boys, and we've dated the boys who literally have no hygiene, and we've dated the boys who have
people need to stop dating them firstly.
Sure, but they're there, right? They're out there, and some of them are hot. We've dated them, right? And then I have friends now with boys, and when I get all vocal, and not overly vocal because I have a pretty cleansed palette of a grid of Instagram, it's not very sexy, but when I do get a bit vocal about any assaults on women, all the shit that we go through in this country, the fighting for some kind of fucking visibility, and when I speak to my friends, they're like, Bex, I'm trying my absolute best to make sure that my son is kind, understands consent, understands that he has to be independent from what. So I think there is an active, but like you're saying, you can't force someone to change. Like you're saying there, you're doing your best.
I think there is a really active effort. I think a lot of women are really trying really hard to talk to their boys in a way that our parents' generation didn't talk to boys or girls, and like talk to them about consent and talk to them about women and about how women are not there for your for your validation or for your consumption or for your voyeurism. But I don't know that their dads are having the same conversation with them. And that's where I think there's
Really?
the
This
real
is so
chasm.
interesting.
That I'm like, I just don't know that the men are putting in this work. Again, that the women are putting in all this invisible labor. I don't know. I mean, you even saying that your friends are saying like, oh, I'm trying my best to raise like a kind boy, blah, blah, blah. I don't think men are having those conversations down the pub. And I wonder if you asked their partners, would their partners be as aware of this?
Wow, this
or would
so
that be at the forefront of their mind?
I do have some dad friends in work and outside work who have boys, and they worry a lot about them and whether they're happy and having enough fun and activities. And when I ask about their daughters, they're like, oh, well, they're very busy, like, and they're doing the chores and they're doing it. And I'm like, why are you so concerned about how many activities? I don't know. I just wonder, is there this strange thing where you go towards what you like? I'm a boy, he's a boy, so that's my focus. I'm a girl, I'm a girl.
Yeah.
And like Jason,
I think a lot of men feel like they can relate to their sons more than they can relate to their daughters, and they know what they're going through, and they know what to talk to them about, what not to. Whereas with the girls, they're a bit like, oh, feelings. I think the world now is like, hurts me to say this out loud because there are so many other important issues that I also kind of campaign for. But I think the world right now is harder for men than it was in our dad's generation in a lot of ways. Now, there was massive pressure on our dads to go out to earn the money, to be stoic, to never have emotions, to come home, to be strong, to, rule the household, to be the man of the house, all this stuff. But in a way, they had their roles very clearly defined. Whereas I feel like in the 50, 60, 70 years since then, I think now it's so more fluid. Like men have all these opportunities, but I think for a lot of men, they don't really know what that means for them. That if they're not going to be the breadwinner, what are they going to do? And they kind of were brought up watching a lot of TV shows as well that still had these very traditional patriarchal role models, and they watched those and they absorbed them. But now they live in a world where actually your wife might earn more than you, and you're also expected to chip in half the household. And like, why shouldn't you? But at the same time, I understand that, like, well, men didn't used to have to do all this extra work at home. Men didn't used to have to do XYZ. They used to have their dinner made for them, so I think.
So we've emasculated them, like we've kind of taken, we're like.
I would take issue with the word emasculation. I think that's a nothing word. Like,
okay.
Like the idea that you're taking somebody's manliness away is bullshit unless you're literally castrating them. Or even then, I'm like, it just doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? I think it's a word that's used to basically criticize women for expecting men to be more than men. You know what I mean? But yeah, I do think that it is difficult for men now in a way that, like, before they had a roadmap.
Right.
And they knew what they were doing. And they also weren't criticized for being men in a way that a lot of the time I think they feel like they are now.
But there was mental health issues within that. So yes, they were out. They had a row. They were going to the pub and pissing away the money because they couldn't cope. They had marital issues. They were abusive within. Like, there was a lot of toxicity. Now maybe the toxicity is, I don't know, running into something else. But I do agree that they're now expected to be caregivers, do the nappies, which so often was like, no, I never did a nappy. They're not going out and going to strip clubs. They're present within the home. They're also earning. And you're right, maybe there is this fluidity that will all maybe settle one day to what are men as dads and husbands.
Basically, like, if you boil it down, it's like they're now expected to do all the shit that we've been expected to do for centuries, right?
Yeah.
But I understand how that can be a kind of a shock, kind of going down through generations going, I thought I knew what my role was going to be, and now I'm not so sure. And I think there's a great comfort in knowing, like, in feeling, if you even think about kind of the Greeks and the Romans. I'm reading this book, The Song of Achilles, and I talk so much about fate. And there is something kind of comforting, I think, in knowing what your destiny is going to be or what your life is going to look like.
Wow.
And now if you think about it, like, the role of the man in work, in the household, in the family has changed so much in such a short space of time.
Yeah, in short space, yeah.
That I understand how that can be a struggle, and how men, I think, feel like for their sons that they really need to talk to them about, like, violence. They really need to talk to them about suicide. They really need to talk to them about mental health. They really need to talk to them about, like, all of these issues. So they're not really all that worried, and I understand why not, about the fact that their son doesn't know how to make his own bed. Do you know what I mean? That might take a back seat.
Yeah.
Whereas the women are the ones going, I want you to go to college knowing how to clean your room.
Yes. and not leave piss on the seat. It's a standard procedure. Talk to me,
I have to say
Rosemary.
that our boys are very good at that.
Well, you look very clean and sharp. You weren't going to raise boys with piss and poo on the seats, Rosemary. That wasn't going to happen.
Well,
that could be your next book. Talk to me about Atlas.
Jesus.
Talk to me about pregnancy. Be honest. You don't have to bare your soul about because I loved your pictures on Instagram. I wouldn't say I'm such a narcissist because that's an extremely negative. I'm trying to be kind about myself, but I'm so vain and I'm so worried about perception and how I look in it. And I was brought up like you were, where it was like those two twins on Babysitter's Club. No, not Babysitter's Club. The two sisters, the blonde ones.
Sweet Valley High.
Sweet Valley High. And that was exactly normal and how you were to look and be, right? Every bit shaved and perfect, everything bleached, everything looking perfect at all times. Anyway, that was what I grew up as being a woman. So I'm always concerned, and particularly when I was pregnant, I found it really hard with Gia. I was like, what the fucking hell is going on with this stuff? And I loved how open you were with it. But seriously, how did you find being pregnant with Atlas, and how are you getting on as a mama?
Well, I mean, so many answers to those two questions. I found pregnancy really hard because, I mean, physically it is really hard, right? So I was really, really tired all the time. I felt quite nauseous. I was really lucky in that in neither of my pregnancies I've actually got sick, like touch wood. But I felt nauseous a lot of the time. And sometimes I'm kind of going, God, I almost think if I could just puke a couple of times, I'd feel better. But just feel nauseous a lot. Felt really tired. My feet swelled up, like very uncomfortable. I was plus size to begin with. And things like chub rub, that kind of chafing you get between your thighs, that just got a lot worse. I'm in Indiana where the summers are really hot. So hot. Last week it was like in the 30s every day. Being pregnant in the heat is really hard. Now I'm only like early pregnant, but in my later pregnancy in August and September, that's going to be harder, obviously.
Yeah.
But at the same time, weirdly, so I think because I've spent my whole life being fat, or being like small fat, as they kind of call it in fat activist circles now, I really liked my body when I was pregnant, because all of a sudden it felt like, okay, well, I'm fat and I have a big belly, but at least now there's a purpose. Like it's like a beautiful big belly. Yeah. But I mean, and I really loved looking at my big belly in a way that I would never have loved looking at my belly before. Before I was always like, oh, I'm disgusting. Like my body just shows evidence.
But isn't that fucked up? You have to have a purpose. Totally. You have to be making a human to be. All right,
totally fucked up. Totally fucked up. And like, but before, when I looked in the mirror, I would see all these messages that society associates with fat bodies. And I would think like, oh, you look like a lazy person. You look like a greedy person. You look like somebody who's never taken care of yourself, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as I became like visibly pregnant, I was like, you look like a goddess. You look like an angelic. I literally was just like, I look so beautiful and so like, look at this amazing pregnant body. But weirdly, within about a month of the baby coming out, I was back to like, oh, my body's disgusting.
It's great, isn't it?
And it was so weird because it was like I had made this baby. He had come out like, I mean, grand. I mean, I don't want to say perfect. Who's perfect?
It's nice,
but like, grand,
isn't it?
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
He came out great, came out healthy, but my body, I suddenly was just back to going, oh, now I'm just fat with no purpose. Whereas before I was like fat for a reason.
You didn't have that really positive. I have to say I did. I have to say I did come out of the pregnancy and the bits where stuff was going down and there was differences. And I have to say for quite a while, it didn't last, but I did maintain, because my labour was really hard. And I do remember going, fuck, I can't believe I did that. I'm amazing. And you know what? Screw everyone. I'm going to chill out. I'm going to eat the food, nurture the baby. I breastfed for a good while. I know that you are. And I really actually did, for once in my life. I remember saying it to my mum, I don't give a shit. Now, it does slip back. Unfortunately, old habits die hard. And I do remember being like, oh, holiday and all this. But I do remember for a good year or two really not caring as much about that horseshit.
Yeah. Whereas I kind of didn't. I think as well, like I had a lot of trauma around Atlas's birth. Just, he was born, like, sorry, trauma sounds like too big of a word for what happened, but it feels accurate to how I felt about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was induced because I went over by a week and my blood pressure started rising. So my doctor suggested that I be induced. Basically, the pregnancy didn't progress. So I was in labor for about 24 hours. And then they decided, well, she recommended a C-section. And I very much all along was like, you're the expert, so I will go with what you suggest. And I was like, if that's what you think we need to do, that's what we'll do. Yeah. So I had a C-section. But afterwards, I felt really disappointed in myself that I hadn't,
Rosemary.
that I hadn't pushed through longer, that I hadn't, you know, you read these stories about women who are like, I was in labor for 70 hours. And I was like, oh my God, I gave up after 24. I felt like I also read a lot about like the benefits of natural birth for the baby and the mother. And I felt like, oh, I really deprived him of all this by giving in or by being, you know, even though, sorry, like C-section is really traumatic. It was like the recovery was really hard. Yeah, really hard. So but I think that really affected how I felt about my body afterwards as well, because I was like, well, not only am I still fat now with no purpose, but like the purpose of my body to birth this baby, it didn't even do that. Do you know what I mean?
We can't even blame your parents for this shit. Like, this is not even all this generational shit that we have. I'm 40 now. You think I'd be like, I'm so happy with my lot. We can't even just blame our parents. This is such a societal issue. This fucking horseshit is such a society. I don't even think men give a damn once there's a hole, like, if I'm honest. Right? So well, give or take. But
no, I think
it is not. I don't know if we can just say mom said one day I was too curvy for that dress, or boys like a bit of meat on their, but I don't think it's just their fault, even though it wasn't helpful. So that is fucked up.
Do you remember reading Bliss magazine when it would be like, how to lose 5 pounds before your holidays, how to lose, like all of these, I mean, not just Bliss, so I don't want to blame, like Bliss 17 more, like all of these teen girls magazines that were marketing us at the age of like 13, 14, 15.
Prepubescent.
That had this really like dark diet stuff in every single issue. And like talking about basically what was a good body, how to hide your bingo wings, creams you could use for your cellulite, like just always striving for a body that is not achievable for 99.999% of people.
But also, if you get your period early, there's something wrong with you and you're gross. But if you get it late, you're not sexually, something's wrong with you. Like, it's all a myriad of horseshit. But
it's all awful. And but I think there's a massively problematic way that we talk about childbirth and labor, in that there's so much of an emphasis on the baby. And look, I know it's about getting a baby at the end, right? And we're all incredibly lucky. And, you know, as long as you have a happy, like, I wouldn't even say healthy, because some babies are born unhealthy, and that's still, you know, you have a baby and they might have to go into loads of treatment and go to the NICU and, you know, like whatever happens. But I think afterwards, especially because I spoke out about how hard I found the C-section and how hard I found kind of wrapping my head around everything that had happened. And I remember so many people saying to me, well, listen, all that matters is that you have a healthy baby. And I'm like, no, that's actually not all that matters. Like, it's great. I'm so grateful. I love my baby so much. But also, don't make me feel like I can't talk about finding this really hard and being really traumatized by it, just because I have this like consolation prize of a great baby. Do you know what I mean?
I totally understand.
Two things can be true at the one time. I am very grateful. And like, I know I'm very lucky, and I have this baby that I really wanted, and that I really still obviously still want. Like, I wanted him until I met him, and then I wasn't sure. No, like, still obviously really want him. But I really feel like there's such a silencing of women around it, that it's like, what are you giving out about?
But here it goes back to our conversation about marriage, and it goes back to it not being Brandon or Jason's fault, and it goes back to the inequalities. It goes back to just, why are women such shrill, moany, pain in the holes? It's like that conversation when you tell the auntie, I had a pregnancy loss. I don't want to call it a miscarriage, because it's not a miss. It's not my fault. It's a pregnancy loss. I had 2. Yeah, we had about 6 in a row before we even had a baby. And then we did another 7. And then we had them in the field. And then that doesn't make it better. Or you just said,
but they're so fucking traumatized.
But we're so fucking traumatized.
I know.
When does it get better?
No, I mean, yeah,
you're meant to be fixing this shit. When is your next book out?
I think I'm not writing another nonfiction book about myself ever again. But I think it gets better through having conversations like this.
Okay.
And through making sure that we have the space to have conversations like this. And also through the people, because not everybody feels like they can, but the people who can do it, to talk about their experience and to push back against the people who are going, all that matters is that you have a healthy baby. You know what I mean? To stand up and go, no, that's not all that matters. And to talk about that publicly. And there are going to be some people who just kind of hear that and go, oh, you're right. And that's fine. Like, you know, we don't need everybody to be shouting about it. But I feel like if you can talk about your experience even with your friends, even with because, you know, like, you think about our parents' generation, they didn't talk about anything. And they still don't. Like my mom was saying, she would never have talked to her sisters about her period. When I was going, something about
how does your mom find you?
I think she thinks that I'm like some kind of weird alien.
She must think you're super. Like, I'm being serious, because I think
Oh,
my mum
no.
thinks I'm really odd and funky and out there and upsetting and controversial and embarrassing. But then when you get to the heart of it, she's like, I'm really proud of the fact that you talk about stuff.
I think she thinks I'm great in general. I think she's really proud that I like wrote a book and published it, although she's not proud of the book, which she read. Great disgust, because there's a lot of graphic sex in the book. She was horrified. My dad didn't read it.
I'm so jealous of your graphic sex.
Listen, it's not even, no, sorry, it's not like, it's not graphic as in, it's not, you know, exciting sex. It was like,
okay, sell the book to us.
Some guy put his thumb in my bum. Like, it's not.
Love it. That's just a Sunday in my house, Rosemary.
Yeah, but no, I think my mom sees me as some kind of weird alien creature who just got landed into her arms, and she's like, "Where did I get you from?" Like, she thinks I'm such an oversharer.
But you're going to feel that way about Atlas. I look at my two girls, I'm like, why aren't you exactly like carbon cookie cut out of me? Why aren't you insecure like me? Why don't you have the same hang-ups? Why don't you look like me? Why don't you talk like, why don't you play like, they are so I've such a sassy one, and she's got interest in random shit like hula hooping. I wouldn't have known how to hula hoop until I went to some nightclub. Like, she's just good at stuff and good at and goes into a camp and is like, see ya. I would have cried going into a camp until I was 15. The other one is just such a, like, I don't know why they're not like me. And isn't that the beauty of those two? Like, so you're talking about your mom and your relationship. It's mental.
It's mad how you're watching these little people grow these personalities that you have nothing to do with.
Nothing. Like, you can't construct, like, you can. Yes, the environment helps. We've read about it. We've all read the books, and it certainly helps that you're not shooting up on the couch right now with your baby. But mostly it's they are like, Simone came out how Simone is now. Like, I watch her, she is so strong, and Gia came out, and it's so amazing. Anyway, it's interesting. I wanted to know about like what your mum thinks, because I love your relationship with your sister, and your podcast is so awesome, and watching that. So Atlas, you come out of it, this funky town over the body again, but you have this baby. I see that you are still breastfeeding him. You're phenomenal. It's I know it's easy to do, but it's also hard to do.
We stopped about 4 weeks ago, and then he kind of would ask for it every now and again. Basically, there was just one day that I didn't breastfeed him, and I went, you know what, let's use this as a kickoff, and let's just stop. So then every time he would ask, I'd say, no, do you want a snack? Do you want water? Do you want this? We've probably nursed maybe like twice a week since then, just 2 different times a week. But then yesterday he asked for it, and I said, oh, do you want some water? And I gave him some water, and then he asked for it again. I said, oh, do you want a snack? And he had a snack, and then he asked for it again, and I was like, oh, you must really want it, because I felt really like he gave it up really easy, and I was really annoyed. I was like, I wanted him to do some like wailing and to like really just make me feel like my effort had been worth it. So then yesterday when he was like, no, I really want milk, I was like, oh, fine, love, you can have it. So then he ended up nursing twice yesterday, and he nursed this morning before he went off to his childminder. So I feel like we've taken a backslide now. But
it's okay.
We're in the process of stopping, basically because the new baby's due in December. And I really didn't want him to feel like, oh, the new baby's here, and now the new baby's getting my milk, and the new baby's got my crib, and the new baby's got my, you know what I mean?
I know.
So
and my friend
tried
Tandem,
to transition him out of his bed and stuff, and
my friend Tandem fed her toddler and newborn, and that was really mentally very hard on her. So maybe mind yourself over.
I really like that idea, but then I start getting into a panic where I'm like, what if he eats all the baby's colostrum? What if he blah blah blah? You know, so. Listen,
God, Miriam,
it's a minefield.
Or Rosemary, it's like the whole thing is a minefield. Can I ask this question, or is it a little bit too private? Do you want loads of children? Do you want to keep going? Are you kind of like, don't know, thinking about that with Brandon? Like, is this going to be a house full of kids?
No. Well, Brandon has announced that as soon as this baby's born, he's going in for his vasectomy.
That's hot.
So I was like, well, I'm going to need you around for a bit. So why don't you just wait for a few weeks? And like, we're not going to be having sex anyway, so you can just chill.
Yeah.
But no, I think like basically after Atlas, I thought I really wanted another baby. He didn't. And he was like, no, I think 3 is enough, 4 is too many, blah, blah, blah. So we went back and forth about that for ages. And then we basically kind of threw caution to the wind. He hadn't quite come around to going, yes, I really want another baby. But he obviously wasn't going, no, I don't want another baby, because we made another baby. You know what I mean? So now with the 4th, though, I do think that's enough. I think like 2 adults and 4 kids is already a too big car. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. You're outfielded. You announced on your grid most of you are going to follow her. That's the only reason you're listening to this. But if you don't follow Rosemary MacCabe's Instagram, it's so enlightening and smart. You announced that you're having a boy. Yeah. You did happy and sad face, which I kind of loved that there was a little bit of balance. How did you feel? Yeah. And did you know in advance, or was it one of these gender reveals? Like, how did you feel?
No. So, well, initially we had decided that we weren't going to find out. We were going to give an envelope to my sister and get her to put the confetti, because it's we did a gender reveal essentially because our boys, our 9 and 11-year-old boys, they wanted to pop the balloon. We were like, fine, we'll do a little party. Yeah, and my mom was going to be here. So I was like, we'll have a little party and mom will be horrified by the Americanness of it all. There's a lot of tragedy in the world. Let's have some fun. Yeah. Yeah. So initially I was going to get my sister to do, and then I was like, I don't want her to know if I don't know. And then I was getting like, who would I be okay with knowing with me not knowing? Nobody. So I decided that we would find out. Oh. And we knew about 10 days or 2 weeks before the gender reveal and didn't say it to anybody. So I stuffed the balloons myself. I actually found out it was really annoying. I got up to one of the 6 million times during the night. I got up to pee. And I checked my phone. It was like, you have a message on your Natera account, because it's all on the app now. So I went in and it was like giving you the results of, we've been in for the gender results and for the kind of fetal abnormality and stuff. So I was like at 3 a.m. going, I'm going to read this while I'm on the loo, which like in hindsight was ill-advised. Because just in case anything had been wrong, do you know what I mean? I would have had to then wake Brandon up in the middle of the night. But anyway, everything was fine. And then it had the gender, like, you know, do you want to find out the gender? And I was like, yeah, fine. Yeah. And I kind of like, I expected it was going to be a boy.
Did you?
Yes, because Brandon's dad only had boys. And so far, Brandon has only had boys. And they say that it's the man, it's the sperm that decides, that dictates, because the women only have XX, and the sperm is the one that you need for the Y. Okay. So I did suspect that it was going to be a boy. So I kind of was like, of course. But obviously there was like a part of me that was hoping for a girl. Just because I was like, my sister has 4 boys. We have 3. It'd be so nice to have a little girl in the family. I was like, one little girl. And she, like, it'd be great now to just have a little bit of feminine energy in the house. Yeah. Because also the dog and the cat are boys. I didn't think that through. Like, next dog and or cat I get will be girls.
Thank you.
But yeah, I just was, I mean, I was disappointed, but it's fine, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Like, and I think actually it would be really nice for Atlas to have a little brother close to his age, because I see how close the older 2 are. That'll be lovely. And I mean, he would have been close to her even if it had been. But I love this.
I'm disappointed, but it's fine. As you're going to love this child to death, like you love Atlas to death and your other sons, right? It's not it doesn't take from that, but it's the same with when we found out we were having Gia. And I think just like you, because Jason's from a very male dominated family, and I thought I'm going to have this little boy, and I taught in a boys' school and I knew how to deal with boys, and I'm probably not that feminine. And then it was like, you're having a girl. I was like, wow, that's a real shock to me. I'd named it Harry. What? Okay, whoa. And that was fine. And then when I was losing Babas, I was told, rightly or wrongly, by the way, this is not scientific, but I was told by a doctor that I may not be able to carry or hold boys. I was like, really? Oh. Yes. And I remember saying, why is that? And they were like, well, one of them there was a boy. And I said, that doesn't mean anything. I was like, yeah, but I'm just wondering, do you struggle to retain? Fine. Anyway, moved on, not scientific. And we found out about Simone. And because of the control and needing to have control with Simone, I found out the sex again. And I do remember going, oh, because I knew that was it. My ship had sailed. I wasn't going to be trying anymore. And this was my family, thank God. I do remember being a bit like, oh, so I will never raise, so much like you're saying, like, I will never raise a boy or know what that's like. And I've got a lot to give, I think. And I think I'd be a great boy mom. But it was also like, okay, this is amazing news. But I do remember it being quite interesting, because there's only girls in my sister's family, and much like you, where is that little boy? So yeah, it's a really strange one. You don't want to be like, I'm so sad, but it's like, oh.
Well, I particularly wanted to find out this time. I mean, last time I wanted to find out because I was like, I can't bear to not know. This time I might have waited. If it was just Atlas and the baby that we had and we didn't have the older 2 boys, I think I might have waited, because I think I would have been like, oh, if it's a boy or girl, whatever. Whereas now I'm like, I don't want 4 boys, but I mean, it's fine. But I really hated the idea that I'd be in hospital, I'd have gone through labor and given birth, whatever way I gave birth, and that the first reaction I would have when I saw my baby would be disappointment. Yes. That if they went, it's a boy, that I'd be like, yes. Oh. And I didn't want that to be, even though, look, I'm sure in the moment that wouldn't have been my reaction.
No, I know.
I'm sure I would have just been like, oh, give him over here, whatever.
But it's an emotional time anyway. You don't want to have that be the overriding. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. And I was like, I really just don't want that to be the thing.
Yeah.
on the day, like in the moment. So that's why we found out ahead of time. And like,
Well,
it was so funny because when we burst the balloons, the confetti went everywhere. My mom's in the corner, just goes, "Oh, for God's sake."
listen, I have a child called Gia, and I text Dad going, "She's here" or something, and he goes, "Like the Ford Gia." I was like, "The which?" The Italian car Ford Gia. I was like, "No, like Gia, Ghia. It's kind of a South African. He is like, never heard of it. So you're naming your child a car." So I was like, "Why do parents have to just fuck with our stuff?" So your mum in the background, my parents.
There's a Volkswagen Atlas now, so we're in good company.
Hey, okay. I think you're brilliant. I'm so excited for what happens next in your story. Not just about pregnancy and what you share. You're so smart and so necessary. Like, we need people like you, because we don't all have the heart or the soul or the strength to be maybe exactly what we should be, or to, like, now and again I tell a story or I put myself out there, but then I reel it back in and I worry, and I don't even have a following. But how do you cope? You spoke there about the release of the book, and I think you were kind of hinting to some commentary. Or how do you cope with all the horse shit or people that do have opinions on you? Or does that kind of feed the beast? You kind of love that?
No.
No.
I used to cope much better, and actually I probably did kind of thrive on it a bit, that I was like, oh, you've got something to say. And then, I would kind of, I still do this sometimes. If I read people saying something negative about me, or if I get a message, I'll share it sometimes because I think I want people to see what kind of gets said about and said to women online. And sometimes just because I feel like I want the kind of solidarity of people responding and saying, oh, like, that person's a dick, ignore them. I think this, that it kind of, because I think sometimes, because people will say essentially, don't feed the trolls, right? And they'll go, just ignore them, don't give them any airtime, you're just giving them what they want. But I don't really care what they want one way or another. I care what's going to make me feel better. And if I have read something about myself that makes me feel really shit and really, like, really down and really affected, because that happens to me now, and it didn't used to when I was younger, but now I'll read things and I feel, sometimes I think, like, the stuff that I read is almost like they've plucked it out of my own brain, and they've just written the things that I worry about myself, or the things that I fear about myself. And I feel like I feel a lot less alone if I share it. It almost feels like I'm being bullied at school and somebody's like pushing me behind a building to whisper something in my ear and nobody else hears it. But if I then stand out and go, well, that person said this about me, then you kind of have a tribe, or you have an army. You feel like there's solidarity around you. Like, otherwise, I think I can feel very alone in it. And look, I don't. So what I'm talking about really is kind of on forums. People will sometimes go on and give out about me, whatever it is that I'm doing.
Why'd you go
a lot
on
of my
to
criticism
them?
is around.
Why'd you go on to the forums?
Yeah, I mean, this is the question. I think I truly think there are two types of people in the world, right? I think there is the person. Imagine you're in a bathroom stall, right, and you hear people washing their hands. There are three women at the sink, and they're talking about you. I think there's one type of woman who will cough and make it clear that she's in the stall, and go like, "Stop talking, I'm in here."
Yeah.
And the other type of woman will sit there and listen.
No, I will not.
And I think I'm the sit there and listen.
Okay, no, I don't.
Or like, I think I'm even the, like, if somebody said, "Oh, they're over there talking about you," I think I'm the, like, sneak over and see, because I'm really curious. I really want to know what they're saying about me.
Really?
Well, you know what? That could be my own conversation.
That could be my only super strength, because I have loads of flaws, and at 40 you really discover. I think it's a real. Are you 40 yet?
I'll be 40 in February.
Yeah, something happens. You just self-discover. I'm sorry, I don't care what people say. It's a massive milestone. I really struggled last year. I've had a really funky year just in general. But I do remember hitting that point and going, God, something I do have that's a superpower is not really caring what, because loads of people won't and don't like me. But very much like you said, if I could hear people talk, I really don't want to know, because I cannot make you like me. And I've discovered that, like, I'm a devil for the people pleasing. Like, I love to make sure people are happy in my home, comfortable, welcome, entertained. But I've realized through career, the media, my home life, family, they just will or they won't. So that's one thing that I have. And I think with you, it's like you've so much power, so many smarts, like you're just so smart. And it's just such a pity that you can't release some of that, like, to the people that are just really nasty. Like, you can't just go.
I know. And I mean, to be honest, so I suffer from depression, or my psychiatrist now thinks a mood disorder rather than depression. But I have real periods of I have real down periods in my life. And it's when I'm feeling worse that I'm more likely to go on and check.
Okay.
And when I'm
Okay.
going through, when I'm feeling more balanced, I'm feeling okay, and I'm feeling like kind of, I mean, I hesitate to say happy because we don't all need to be
No.
striving for happy all the time.
No.
Right? There's a whole spectrum of emotions. But like
Yeah.
when I'm feeling more together, I don't really go on and check. And it's when I'm feeling shit that I'm almost like, I feel like such a piece of shit. I'm going to go on and see what other people realize that I'm a piece of shit.
It's an
and
addictive
what
thing.
they're
It's like
saying about
taking
me.
the drink when you shouldn't take. It is an addictive thing.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of a form of self-harm. Now it's like absolutely probably the least harmful form of self-harm, although psychologically maybe not. But you know, it's not massively extreme as self-harm goes. But yeah, I do find it really hard to ignore it. And I think one of the major frustrations for me is that it's not even that I want everybody to like me, although like I do, right? I think most of us do. In an ideal world, everybody would like me, right? That'd be great. But I find it really frustrating when I feel like people are misunderstanding me.
Yes.
And I'm like, no, you're wrong. You know, like when people are like, oh, she's talking about this. She clearly is just looking for attention, or she wants this, or she wants. And I'm like,
oh
no,
my God, yes. You've hit the nail on the head actually with trolling. It's like, I actually just want you to understand, and then you can have a judgment of me. Then you can say, well, this is...
You're absolutely entitled to opinion. You cannot like me if you don't like me. But to come on and be like, because sometimes they'll come on and they go, I really like Rosemary, but her latest story smacks of blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, that's not what I was trying to do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
that's fucking annoying. Yeah.
That's frustrating. But I learned, I have learned years ago on boards, people used to talk about, because they used to talk about Irish bloggers, and sometimes I'd come up and I created an account so that occasionally I could go on and go, oh no, actually that was meant to be blah, 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 and kind of defend. And I was like, it actually doesn't matter what you say.
No, it really doesn't.
Like, it's just people want to have a go. But the forum thing, I just don't understand. I'm like, do you not have any mates you could WhatsApp?
No,
because as I said way earlier in the episode, I was talking about Brandon being really nice. Like, I can be quite bitchy. And I can see somebody online doing something that I think is ridiculous, and I could text a friend and go, oh my God, did you see such and such a stories?
But it's a good release. You've said it. It's off.
A public forum.
No, you've said it. It's off. There we go. She looks like a pain in the tits. What is she like? Why is she so? But it's done. It's like, it's not nice all the time, but we're not nice all the time. But it's done. You've gotten it out. The other person's maybe giving you the validation, and you move on, right? It's not obsessive. Okay, I don't want to let you go, but I know I have to wrap this up. But can I do a really irritating quick fire?
Oh, go on. Yeah.
Okay. Ozempic. Give me a few words.
Oh, I started taking Ozempic. Well, not Ozempic, but the compounded semaglutide, so the off-label one. I started taking it 2 weeks before I found out I was pregnant.
Okay.
I'd gone to my doctor and gone, like, I'm really struggling to lose it. Like, I've lost weight before. I've gained it back. I've lost it again. I've gained it back. And I was like, I'd love to try this. Now I hate getting sick. I have kind of stomach issues sometimes. So I was like, if I have any like dodgy side effects, I won't be staying on it, but I'd like to try it and see if it could help me just like quiet the food noise and chill out my appetite a bit. And I was on it 2 weeks when I found out I was pregnant. And then I was in a major panic because I was like, what have I done to the baby? But I was on such a low dose, and it was so soon in my pregnancy that I'm hopeful that it's fine. Look, everything looks fine so far, but I'm not anti-Ozempic at all. I do think there's like broader implications for diet culture and for how we talk about and think about bodies. Hollywood in general is getting frighteningly thinner than ever before.
Yes.
I think any strides that we made in fat acceptance are kind of going out the window as we see more and more fat influencers losing weight in Ozempic. And I think that's difficult. And I think the Oprah special, I don't know if you saw it, but I saw a few clips from it. And one of the things that I noticed was that people were talking basically about how much better they felt since they were on Ozempic. But everything they were talking about was actually nothing to do with being thin or fat. It was to do with anti-fatness. So they were saying things like, I feel like nobody in my family is saying anything negative to me anymore. I can buy nicer clothes. I feel more comfortable going to the swimming pool, all this kind of stuff. And you're like, that's cultural. Not because you're thin, that's because society is anti-fat.
Yeah, and they hate people.
You know what I mean? And I think that problem will never be solved if we just go, well, everybody can be thin now.
No, and
I think it's problematic, but I'm not against it from an individual point of view. I think we all have to do what we need to do. And we live in a very anti-fat society. And if your life is going to be made easier by you using medication to get thin, then I don't judge anybody for that.
Best thing about being a mother?
Sorry, that wasn't very quick.
No, it's okay. Best thing about being a mother?
Oh, God. I don't know if this is a great time for me to answer this question because I'm like, what is the best thing? Probably just the fun. Like, there's a lot of fun in my life that I think if Brandon and I were just living together, like, I mean, we have fun and we laugh and we, there's probably a lot of laughter in our relationship in general, but there's not that much fun. And I think having the kids around ensures that not a day goes by without at least some fun.
Worst thing?
I think just the demand, like it's very demanding. The demands on your time, the demands on your, mental capacity, the demands on your physical endurance in terms of laundry and making beds and running around after them. Like I think it's very easy to get very burnt out, especially for women. And it makes it really hard to feel like you have any time for yourself. And by that token, I think especially in the last couple of months, have been struggling with the idea that like all I am now is a mom. I'm kind of trying to remember, what did I do for myself? What kind of person was I before I was spending all my time and energy on these people?
Oh, I don't want to let you go, but finally, Rosemary MacCabe passes away in the night peacefully. What do you want as your legacy? Like, what would you actually like people to say about you? Seriously, Rosemary.
My God, you know what's so dark that like literally my first thought was like, I need to write a big long essay about all the people who have fucked me over so that somebody can read that out loud and I won't be sued for defamation. I was like, because I'll be dead.
What is wrong with you?
Listen, I am such a good grudge holder. And like if I lived in the kind of 16th, 17th centuries, vengeance would be,
wow.
I would be such a good avenger.
But anyway, on my team.
I would like people to remember me as being really kind and really funny, and to think that I tried to leave the world and the people that I loved in it better than I met them.
You are, as they would say in Fort Wayne, Fort Worth, Fort Lauderdale, Fort Wayne. You are awesome. You are formidable. And I can't wait to see what you do next. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sponsored by Aptamil Follow-On Milk. We believe that every feed is a gift. That's why we've dedicated over 50 years to breast milk research and created Aptamil Follow-On Milk. Aptamil Follow-On Milk, your life, our science. Breastfeeding is best. Follow-on milk should be used as part of a mixed diet from 6 months. Talk to a health professional. I hope you enjoyed this episode of A Little Birdie Told Me, and if you did, it would mean a lot to me if you could like, subscribe and share this episode.